Hello, everybody. For those in Lisbon, good afternoon. For those around the world, good morning, good evening. We're happy to join you today. Hi, Victor.
Hi, Becky. Nice to have you again.
Yeah, it's really nice to be back. I heard there were a lot of questions and a lot of enthusiasm about the last conversation we had, but also just about moving to Portugal. We're here, we're having a great time. So we'd love for all of you to have a great time and move to Portugal as well, if that's what you're interested in.
Amazing, yeah. And I do like this light topics, for related to your experience living here. People are very, I can see that they're very excited to hear about your impressions of Portugal, and I'm also very excited to hear from you.
Yeah, so I'm not going to hold back, guys. I'm going to tell you exactly how it was. I've been here now for 5.5 years. I moved to Portugal in December of 2020. I'm from the US, originally from Cincinnati, Ohio. And my situation was a little different because just before I moved to Portugal, I had been a digital nomad for 2.5 years. Before that, I had lived in Japan for 13 years. So you are going to hear some interesting comparisons from me between Japan and Portugal. And let me tell you, it was pretty dramatic at the beginning for me because I had a lot of expectations about timeliness and cleanliness. And well, I have to say, my safety expectations when I moved to Portugal have been fully met. It is, it's not as safe as Tokyo because that's incredibly safe, but I have never had a safety issue in the 5.5 years that I have lived in Lisbon. So I'm,
Really,
very happy to
that's
have that connection with
amazing.
my previous home. Yes, it is really safe here, guys. You should take precautions like any place you would go. I don't like to travel in Portugal with my residence card on a day-to-day basis. Sometimes you need to, present it at a clinic or something like that. But I tend to try to show them the picture of my card on my phone because it can take a while to get that card replaced. So that's one thing I would say. But yeah, the safety
Yeah,
here in Portugal has
that's
been really nice.
very
Have you found the same,
That's a very,
Victor?
very good tip, and I do the same, Becky. Yes, yes. I know that the struggles of like renewing or getting a new copy of your card. So I'm very, I'm very cautious in having the card with me all the time. But yeah, I guess we share this the same feeling about this. Also, quick one, guys, just so you know, you can ask your questions while we are having this presentation. Try to answer you all. And also, if you can share where you are based now, or maybe when you plan to move to Portugal, if you already decide about it, you can just type in the comment section. We would love to hear from you.
Yeah, bring those questions. That's what we're here for. So yeah, I have been here, like I said. I applied on the D7 visa when I got here. At the time, there was no digital nomad visa available. And I did it by myself, but to be honest, I would have loved to have someone like you, Victor, helping me through that process because there were so many different stories I was hearing from different people. And I think the only reason I ended up doing it myself is at the time I happened to know a few people who had just done it and had moved to Portugal. They were digital nomads like myself. So that did help me in the beginning. But yeah, it was the D7 passive income visa. And I'm still on that visa
Yeah.
now. I've renewed it twice and I just renewed it again. I got my new card August 4th. So that was a very happy day.
Congrats. That's a big accomplishment.
Thank you. Oh, and Nicole, I see Nicole is moving here in just a few months on the D7. Congratulations, Nicole. Going to Tavira. Tavira is still a city I have not been to in the Algarve. I would love to visit. I hear amazing things. Have you been there, Victor?
Been there. I've been there. I did a full trip to the Algarve. Such a beautiful region. Yeah, I do have some friends who lives in Tavira. They just love there.
I really I've heard just beautiful things. I'm reading some of your comments right now. There's a question from Judy. Like Judy says, can you still earn remote dollars on the D7? Okay, so Judy, I have to admit, as I said, there was a lot of uncertainty. There were different stories that you hear from people on different visas. I renewed my D7, but honestly, the whole time I have been earning active income and I have been reporting it to Portugal every month. There's a system. This is one of the things you kind of have to get used to when you move to Portugal. As you've probably heard, there's quite a bit of bureaucracy, especially in that first year. And then what happens is you obviously just get used to it and you start to create a system for yourself. So you have a central financial website in Portugal. And every month, around the same time every month, I log in and I input my income from my clients that I have. Because as you know, I'm editor-in-chief of Portugal.com. I work for Portugal.com, and I also work for a couple of other clients. There's different rules for that, depending on whether that client is based in Portugal or actually based in the EU, I should say, or based outside of the EU because of VAT. So that's a whole other thing that we can help you with, but it is something to be aware of. If you are a freelancer and you come on the D8, I would imagine if you're applying for a new visa, they probably are going to say you need a D8 if you are working actively. I don't know if you've seen this, Victor. I know they've gotten more strict because now there are two distinctions.
True, true. Back then, there was no digital nomad visa. When I moved to Portugal, for example, it was all about the D7. So there was like more flexibility for you to show how you what's the source of your income. But now they're becoming more strict in they want to see really passive income for the D7 visa. So I agree with you, Beck. Maybe the D8 visa will be more suitable in this situation.
Yes, I would imagine just whatever most suits your situation is the one to go ahead and apply first with. I would have done the same if that's what had been available. But yeah, I'm on the D7. Luckily, they renewed that for me and they didn't make me go onto the D8 and start a new visa. I was afraid of that, but luckily there was no problem. I did renew it myself on the online portal. It is now possible for people even outside of the EU to renew their D7s online. So I didn't have to see or have any in-person appointment. It was just paying the money and uploading the documents.
Becky, if it's okay for you, I can start sharing your slide presentation.
Please do.
So let's put it on the screen. Let's see. Okay, there you go.
Okay, so this is nothing fancy, guys, but this is just to give us something to look at while I'm talking about this. So, okay, let's talk about moving to Portugal. So, as I mentioned, patience and just the bureaucracy at the beginning and is really why you need all of this patience. But it is going to be your greatest asset when you move to Portugal. Portugal does move at a different pace than a lot of English-speaking countries, even countries from the West. A lot of countries in Asia move a lot faster. So it's its own brand, it's its own speed, and that speed is generally pretty slow. As a retired person, that's fantastic, I think. But if you are like me and you're still actively working, it can be it could feel like it slows you down a bit when you need to still be motivated to work. But I think if you're retired and you're coming here, it's great. So bureaucracy can be slow and also ambiguous. It can take different amounts of time for different people. Sometimes it's faster for kids to be processed than for adults. Different offices in different parts of the country can process things faster. And we really don't know. It's hard to tell you, to give you a hard rule that like Porto is always faster than Lisbon. It can vary, but just expect that coming in when you start to get to apply for some of these things. And learning to adapt to the pace of life will be, I think, one of your biggest adjustments. So, a lot of people love this, but for example, when you have lunch, the server may not always come to your table for a while. You may have to flag them down if you do feel like you're in a hurry. But at the same time, there's like a beauty in the fact that they leave you alone to just enjoy your meal, enjoy the person that you're with, and just take your time. I especially love like going to cafes and just sitting there for hours and no one bothering me to buy something else or to leave. That's just normally like if it's a busy cafe, then I will feel like, okay, I should give up my seat. But other than that, there's just a lot of relaxing, and even in Lisbon, where I've lived the whole time. So, yeah. All right. And then,
Yeah,
okay, as I was
I
mentioning,
agree.
Victor, with the freelancing and me reporting my income, I think staying organized with everything as you're across the board is just so helpful. We now have AI that can help us maybe stay a bit more organized with certain things. But just, yeah, keep copies of all your important documents, digital and paper. You never know. There are still in-person appointments that you need to go to, and having that paper copy is going to be really helpful. You save your emails, receipts, your correspondence, because you will often need them later, sometimes when you're renewing. So yeah, it's going to help a lot just being organized. If there's one member of your family that's a lot more organized than the other, maybe make a deal with them and say, okay, you do that part and I'm going to help you in another way. It's, I think it's so much easier if you can just keep everything organized. But I will tell you that
Oh yeah.
I have asked AI, I've asked AI for help. Like it has been a great invention in some ways. I have been told how to download certain documents from the financial website that I didn't even know existed, but I was helped by asking AI. Or there's other forums. I'm going to mention one of them on Facebook to you as well. And here it is. So the Americans and Friends PT Facebook group. If you're not already part of this, I think it's. I mean, of course, it's open to everybody, not just Americans. But it's an excellent place to search for answers before you really, if you need to do it yourself and you can't afford Victor, for example, or often you just have a question about something unrelated, but somebody on that Facebook group has probably experienced it and can help you. Um, and yeah, you're going to need help, I would say, especially
Yeah.
from an accountant. There was a question here about, like, I've spent a lot of money. Who is asking this? Tracy. Tracy said, I've spent a lot of money getting tax advice. How hard is it to get tax advice and help with submitting your annual form? I'm not sure if you're talking about the US or Portugal, but it's not hard to find an accountant that can help you, especially on the Portugal side. Um, Really, we could do it ourselves if we understood it enough, but usually that would take a year or two of somebody else doing it for you to be able to see how it's done. And it depends on your tax situation, of course, but you will be able to find somebody. And I'm sure, Victor, you have partners that can help with accounting.
I do. We do have partners, but and I like the fact that people are really like try to do things themselves because it's totally possible. Messing up with numbers, it's not my area. I'm very scared to have to pay more taxes, so I leave it to the accountant.
I'm going to tell you guys a weird story. So I did accounting for 4 years. I worked for PricewaterhouseCoopers for 4 years when I lived in Tokyo. I was doing individual taxes for expats there. But I will say, my Portuguese accountant this year, not affiliated with Victor, we cannot blame him for this. He told me I owed 3,500 euros this year, and then Portugal, we submit the tax return and they check, and then they accept it or they revise. They said, no, no, you owe 300 euros. So that's what I paid. I was very happy this year. I don't know what happened, but okay. I paid the lower amount and everything's filed. So sometimes it's really happy. I don't know. Maybe it was from a previous year's refund. I'm not sure, but sometimes you definitely have to check
True.
and try to understand those numbers. But I still don't do the taxes myself. I know people who do, but I want to trust somebody in Portugal to do
Me
it for
neither.
me. Yeah. So that's the situation there. And I found my accountant through a friend that was already here. So yeah, I'm sure we are happy to help you with that. Okay. Yes, here we go. So understand the tax system as early as you can. I've already mentioned as a freelancer, there's some things that you have to input into the system. And again, my accountant helped me with that at the beginning. Once I knew how to do it and I was confident, I started doing it myself because he was charging me an extra fee monthly for that. But it was actually pretty easy to do by myself. The VAT reporting I mentioned as well, there's some extra things you have to do. I had to help ask some AI questions to figure one of the pieces of that out because I'd never had a client that was in the EU until this year. And there was a bit of extra things I had to do, but it's not impossible to work for an EU client if you are American living in Portugal. Yes, and then, you know, there's people that have US LLCs. That is not the case for me, but there's people here that have that structure set up as well, and they pay themselves dividends. And as far as I know, in the past, dividends were not considered taxable in Portugal from a foreign source, but that might be changing. So do not rely on that. I think Portugal has gotten stricter. Victor, you're nodding your head. I'm not sure if you've heard about that, but I heard about this in the last month. So, yeah.
Yeah, even the not only more stricter, but some tax incentive regimes that used to be available, they were canceled. So it's good to have this tax planning. I agree with you, Becky, before the move, just so you know how much you'll be paying on taxes. Very important to your move.
Yeah, and a big, I think, and I am not retired yet, so I may ask you, Victor, to confirm on this, but I believe now Portugal is taxing 10% on pensions from the US. It used to be zero, but now it's 10%, I think. In the last couple of years, that changed.
Yeah, true. This is under the new NHR. Yeah, I mean, it's still I guess that the tricky part here, especially with Americans, is that they need to take into consideration that there are taxes on the American side and also on the Portuguese side. So there's a need to have some kind of coordination between both countries. But it's yeah, it's doable. But I would highly suggest going after assistance because this is a very technical topic.
Yeah, I pay a U.S. accountant separately. He does not like know much about Portuguese tax, but I always do my U.S. tax first and try to file it by April 15th if I can, and then I wait because the Portuguese tax deadline, if you don't know, is much later. It's like they usually don't make you pay until the end of August, and I think you have to file by the end of, I believe it's the end of June, right? End of
Yeah,
July,
exactly.
depending. But yeah, so it's the order of how I do it as an American. And it sucks to have to file 2 tax returns a year, but that's how it is. And we need to file every year. Um, so yeah. Also for those, this might be like more of a niche topic, but uh, if you have cryptocurrency, Portugal has a really special rule going on, and this has not been changed as of yet. But if you have held a cryptocurrency for more than 1 year, it is not taxable when you sell it in Portugal. It would still be taxable in the US, but it is not taxable in Portugal. And that is a rare law. Most countries, it is not. That is not the case. So we've had some people that are cryptocurrency investors move to Portugal specifically because of that. I'm putting on my tax hat, Victor.
That's funny.
Yep. Okay. Let's
No,
not
good
talk
one.
any.
You're doing good.
Let's not talk more about tax right now. But we will answer your questions about it. That's a big topic. Okay, so home ownership. For those of you thinking about buying a home, I bought a one-bedroom apartment in 2021. I was actually really lucky because I bought it when COVID was still a big thing and people really weren't even coming to Portugal during that time. But it may not surprise anyone to hear that real estate agents were still happily taking you around to look at properties. We couldn't leave the country really, so we were just looking at properties, and I got a mortgage from Portugal They do give mortgages to foreign like residents. I was a resident of Portugal already, but they will give you a mortgage here, which is also really nice. That does not happen in a lot of countries in Europe, for someone just that's a resident from outside of the EU. So I got a mortgage and I locked in a pretty good rate. So I consider myself very fortunate, but there is a lot to learn about, including this condominium that I mentioned in the first bullet point here. It's similar to an HOA. So it's better if you have this condominium system already set up in your building if you're buying an apartment, because basically it's, you have to pay a certain amount every month. It goes into a pool of money and it will be used for repairs. I moved into a building that did not have one set up, and I wanted air conditioning. And so to get air conditioning, to have it allowed in my apartment, I set up the condominium for the building myself, had a meeting with the other three owners. They all signed that it was okay. And now I'm the facilitator and I collect the money for everybody. So this is kind of the unexpected bureaucracy you may not expect, but I was an accountant. The moment they heard that, they were like, it can be you. And I was like, wow, thank you.
Okay.
But check that, how that situation is, because having a condominium system in place will allow you to have meetings and make changes and make decisions together. It's not like required, but it's becoming the norm, and you have an easier time selling your place, I think, if you have this set up. So yeah. And another thing I would say is check who your neighbors are, because I did not think much about it. There's only one person above me, one person below me, but I discovered that the people above me are quite noisy. So I didn't know that. They've gotten quieter over the years, but just come in and really do a check. Visit the property outside, like in the morning, later in the evening if you can, the road around it. See who might be noisy around where you're going to buy, especially if you're like in a big city like Lisbon, because there's a lot of things that you could get caught up in. And I had one friend who was about to buy a property, and the real estate agent said, well, I don't know what the number is. It's like, well, we were offering 280. Would you take it for 260? And he was like, yes, you're lowering the price for me. Okay. And it turned out there's a rule in Portugal that the tenants living in the property who are going to be kicked out if you buy, they can select they have a right to buy at that lowest price. And so that's what was happening. So he lost his deal at the last minute, and the people who'd been living in the house for 10 years bought it, instead. And he was very surprised. None of us knew that rule. It was in the first year that, me and my friends were living in Portugal. And it's good to know these little things, because you really,
Yeah.
you wouldn't expect it, right?
True. True.
Yeah. He found a very nice place in the end, I will say. I think he's in a better place now than he would
Really.
have been. Yeah.
Good for him.
So
Good for him.
turned out well in the end, but yeah, there's a lot of things that it's unfamiliar to us. It seems here in Portugal, it's unfamiliar to have home inspections before you buy. If you are in this business already and you want to move to Lisbon, you will have a lot of business, my friend, because I think the expats really want this, and it's just not common to have this done before you buy. So yeah, do it. I would definitely say do it before you buy a place.
True.
So yeah.
I guess also the fact that there are so many people looking for properties here, and that happened with some of our clients. They did want to have some inspections, but if they ask this for the landlord, they would be automatically excluded from the queue, because others, they don't ask for this request. So yeah, it's kind of tricky.
Yeah. So another thing to know, which is not on this slide, is that it's very humid, especially in Lisbon. And I would imagine also in Porto and places around the Silver Coast and the Algarve. And that humidity really can take you by surprise, because the walls here, there's not a lot of insulation in the buildings, and you really need to be opening your windows in the morning, like when it gets colder and there's a temperature difference, to make sure your house doesn't get too wet on the inside. And so a lot of people buy dehumidifiers and things like that. But these are all things to think about when you're buying, like things to look out for.
Yeah.
So just differences. We're in a beautiful country. It's a beautiful weather, but there's things that you don't see on the surface that you find out when you spend time here, or you watch one of the webinars like this. Okay, let's talk about the language. Portuguese is such a beautiful language, and you're going to hear a lot of different accents. I love the Brazilian accent. I have a soft spot for that, but it's been so interesting learning the local accent here in Lisbon. And what I want to say to you though, and this, I'm sure you hear this all the time, but it's so important. Learn the language, get into a language class, or start learning online as soon as you can. Because when the law changed this year to have citizenship go from 5 years to 10 years, a lot of my friends were not able to apply in time because they had not taken their language test, which was a requirement to apply for citizenship. And this isn't a quick process. It is so crowded in the testing centers that you have to get a spot. And a lot of the spots disappear within the first month of the year. And then it takes 2 months to get your grade back when you take your test, and then 2 more weeks to get your certificate. So it's about easily like a 3 to 4 month process at the minimum. So, and the tests I think are only offered every month or 2 months, depending on which one you're taking. So yeah, it's something to plan way ahead for. And so the earlier you can learn and get to, at the time it was an A2 level of language. I think they are going to increase that requirement to at least B1. We're still waiting on the final terms of that because nobody has had to face that new test yet. It's so important, and it will just amplify the quality of your life times 10, times 100. You will really get to know the Portuguese people if you learn their language, and they're so friendly when you do, and they're friendly in general, I find. But yeah, it's night and day when you can really learn the language, but beyond the very simple things.
I agree. I agree on that. And there's,
Yeah.
as you mentioned, like there's some differences between Portuguese from Brazil, Portuguese from Angola, Portuguese from Portugal. Even for me, that Brazilian, it was not easy in the beginning. Moving to the north region, it took about 2 to 3 months to really understand what people were saying. But yeah, in time, especially when you're living here, you get used to listen to people, so it gets easier. At least when you try to speak to people, and they are very friendly. I agree with you, Becky.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite things about being in Portugal are the people. I mentioned that I used to live in Japan, and it was amazing. But the people there are polite and friendly, but they don't like to talk about their personal lives. I feel the Portuguese will just share so much with you, and as an American, that felt really familiar. And you can make such closer friends with Portuguese, and they'll invite you to their homes and things like that. And it's just I feel like I'm really part of something here in Lisbon, and I'm much less the other than I was in Japan, which you can probably imagine. But it's this Lisbon is such a melting pot of people. I went to the dentist a few days ago, and my dentist was Venezuelan. The receptionist was Brazilian. The woman in front of me trying to make an appointment was Mongolian. Like, this is just, this is a 10-minute walk from my house. It's amazing. So, and everybody was nice. So, yeah. Okay. And then the supportive community. I saw, by the way, that somebody has provided the link to the American and Friends PT group, which may be some of the first people you talk to when you get here, besides your neighbors. But yeah, if there's a lot of groups in Lisbon and Porto. I first started finding things on meetup.com, and then Facebook, Instagram. There's some of these apps where you can go have dinner with strangers. There's like, even you'll see flyers down the street with like for example, a Portuguese language class, or Just I go to a pub quiz now once a week that I first found on Meetup. That was a great source of friends. And then for me, I was in a piano bar one night, and a Portuguese guy who I didn't know was a choir leader. He invited me to join a Portuguese choir, which I've now been in for 3 years. And that has been so great for me meeting Portuguese people, because the pub quiz is a lot of expats and some Portuguese, but I would say like maybe you want to do both. You want to do an expat group, but try to get in to something that's also, has a lot of Portuguese people, because it's really lovely to see both sides. So things that are weekly or bi-weekly, like those things are going to make you start to feel really at home. So, Victor, are you part of anything? Like, what do you do during the week? Like
I should.
paddle? Paddle's really popular here too.
I
Like there's a lot of
should
people
be.
playing paddle.
Okay.
There's a running
There's
club.
a running group here.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes, the
yeah, I
running
do.
club.
I try my best to be active. It should be more more active for sure. But I agree with you. It's a good way to meet new people, to make friends. You have something in common to share, a topic, and there are many Americans on those groups. So yeah, that's a good way to interact with people. And yeah, I like it.
I went to, this is a bit crazy. I like to challenge myself. I went to a CrossFit gym for the first time earlier this year. And I started going, at first I didn't feel that connected to what I was doing physically in there or the people. But by like the second month, I was really enjoying connecting with people. There were a lot of Brazilians there. But again, it was walkable from my house, and everybody has to high five at the end. Like we were connecting, Victor. It's a great way at the gym to connect with people, or through trauma bonding. That's really what we were doing. So yeah, but yeah, there's a screenwriting group I know of that's meeting. I have stand-up comedy that's doing multiple events throughout the week at a cafe, another 10-minute walk from me. There's so many things around that you can do, and there's something for everybody, especially in Lisbon and Porto, but I'm sure also Lagos and centers of the Algarve as well. Cascais as well has a lot of things. Okay, so we're almost to the end of this, then we're going to start taking questions. So as I said, the safety is fantastic. It really does live up to the hype. And then the climate also lives up to the hype. There is a rainy season, and it does get cold. In Lisbon, we don't get snow. It doesn't get that cold, but it did rain for 30 straight days in February. That took all of us by surprise, and we had a bit of damage here in my building, a lot of damage throughout the country actually. But so it's not perfect, but it is. Even this summer, it's been hot, but it has not been hot the way a lot of other countries have been experiencing. So we've been lucky, and we have this beautiful ocean next to us that is cold actually. So in the middle of July, you can go and
Very
take a little
cool.
cold plunge and then come back out to the sand. But I mean, it's lovely to have that here in Lisbon, and it's not far from Porto either. You can live in Porto and by metro get to the beach, so no problem. And then so the beaches along the Silver Coast and the Algarve are I would say the most beautiful. Also, I mean, it doesn't get said enough, but Madeira and the Azores, they're incredible. I just went to the Azores again and sorry, I'm saying it like an American would, Victor. The Azores is how we say it here, but there's
No, good,
not,
good, good,
not
good.
9 islands, so beautiful. If you get a chance in your life to go to the island of Flores, which means flowers in Portuguese, it is like Jurassic Park over there. I was amazed this summer. But São Miguel is the most popular island. Great place to live, I would say, if you want to live on the islands. So Portugal really has it all in that sense. The islands are beautiful, and the mainland, and so much history. And then the dining. In Lisbon, like I was saying, how diverse everything is. There's food from so many places you wouldn't expect. We have a neighborhood here that has like a Bangladeshi restaurant one after the other, and then behind that, Indian, Nepalese restaurants. So whenever my friend from Tokyo comes to visit me, so he is originally from Zimbabwe, and he wants to go to all the African restaurants because Tokyo does not do African food the way that we do it here in Lisbon. We do it much better. And he's so excited because we've got Angolan food, like Cape Verdean food, Mozambique, like all of these different places. And it's amazing how much variety we have. So it's not just Portuguese food, which is great. There's a lot. Yeah. And then the culture, the final thing on this slide, it's just, this is one of the oldest, I think the second oldest country in Europe. Does anyone know what the oldest country in Europe is? In the comments? Anyone want to guess? Once you hear it, it's obvious, but it was featured in a very big film this summer. That's right. No one's saying anything. That's right. It's Greece. That's the oldest country. And then there's us. So it's fantastic. But yeah, so I would love to get to your questions now because there are a lot of questions and I'm looking at them. I know I can't answer all of them, but I hope between Victor and I, we can definitely answer them. So I'm going all the way back here. Okay. I'm so happy to see everybody moving and already having things in place. You're doing a scouting trip. Judy's doing a scouting trip. The D7, I would definitely look at, Judy. I think it's probably a great fit if you're passive income or already retired. Okay. Somebody took a scouting trip last September. Oh, you fell in love with Portugal. Thank you. Okay. What is the earliest time you can start the process if you want to start living in the country around the fall of 2028? Victor, as far as I understand, I mean, she could start now and then she can say, I mean, let's see,
there's
maybe early next year, I would say, or like
I mean,
it's fall of 2028. That's actually quite a while from now, but we don't know how long it's taking to get appointments and things like that. And then, yeah, you can probably speak to that more than I can.
That's the tricky part. No, but that's you were totally right on that, Becky. I guess starting from beginning of the year, you would be able to manage all to go after all of the documents. But it's never too early because if you are really committed to moving to Portugal, there are some documents you can start gathering before, just like your NIF, so your tax number. You can open a bank account, as you're gonna need those when you apply for the visa. But I would say if you have no documents related to the visa, about like 6 months, maybe 6, 7. Just keep in mind that the appointments may be hard to reach. So just be aware.
Yeah, it also, I would say, depends on what state you're from. I know that the states that are being taken care of by California or New York are taking longer than the states that are being taken care of by DC. That used to be the case. I don't know if you're still experiencing that, Victor. I'm from Ohio. I was lucky I was in the DC category, which is smoother. Yeah. That's still,
but
because
still,
you can
this is still
yeah, people from the coasts are
more people,
like,
for sure.
Yeah, there's more people. So yeah, but it's the earlier you can start learning about this, the better. And then good luck and congrats on making that decision. And then Richard is moving to Ponta de Barca in mid-October. That is so close, so exciting. Excellent, Richard. Okay, in Florida, you're waiting for your visa appointment. Yes, Jennifer, I totally know how that feels. Hoping to be in Lagos. Lagos is fantastic. I've been there 3 times. It would be an amazing place to live. Okay, we talked about the taxes. I ruled out the Spanish DNV because I own a US-based F-Corp and the autonomy tax scheme. Oh yeah, the D8 threshold is higher than Spain. D8 is getting quite high. The last time I checked, it was around 3,800 euros a month, I think, right around there. It depends.
For minimum wage, that can be quite a high threshold comparing to Spain, for sure. Yeah.
Do you know, because again, this didn't exist when I applied, Victor, do you know if they really want to see like the amount of money over that threshold consistently, like for 6 months, or how many months back do they want to see that to be able
Yeah.
to meet that threshold?
They usually ask for 3 months history. But I guess that, there is, I mean, when you apply for a visa, you're going to show not only your salary, but your overall financial situation. So I wouldn't say there's like a black or white situation. If the more documents to prove you are financially stable, the better. But it's a good way to those for a minimum wage for the digital nomad is a good way to establish the base for the application. So this should be around that 3,800 euros, but it's not black or white.
Yeah, I learned that when they
If you have a
reapproved my
little less, but
D7.
you have more, you have savings. Yeah.
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 So may as well, I would say, try. Go ahead and try, and don't let it stop you. Just move
Yeah.
forward in the process. And yeah, for different reasons too. Like Spain, a lot of people, well, citizenship is now a different thing because it's a lot longer than it used to be, and it is still possible. It's just going to take 10 years for a non EU citizen. And right now, it is taking about 3 years to get the passport after you apply. And that's a long time too. So,
Yeah.
okay, but Spain does not allow dual citizenship the way that Portugal does. And that's why a lot of people do also choose Portugal. So, yeah, and another reason why you might rule out the Spain DNV if you are looking to move like to a country long term and make it your home. Okay, this one might be for you, Victor. Michael has been in Porto for 90 days waiting for his visa appointment with VFS. Is there any way to see if there's a queue or some type of order? Does VFS take applicants in the order they attempt to book? He's been trying for 4 months.
Yeah, it's Michael. That's a very good question and very common one. It's kind of random, I have to tell you. We do have clients that they are lucky that they receive the decision in 2 weeks, while others wait for 4 or 5 months. I really don't know how they structure this internally, how they manage it. But it's kind of random. Unfortunately, what I usually do with clients is that I try to get in touch with them. So I send emails, try to call them, so I have more information. Sometimes I get a reply, but still, it's very random, unfortunately.
This is one of those things where, like I said, there's no real rhyme or reason why one office is faster than the other, and that can change based on staff changing. Yeah, this is one of those things about bureaucracy that we all wish we could change, but it is the reality of
Yeah.
Portugal at the moment. So I really hope you get that appointment soon.
My
Um,
yeah. My
oh,
take on this is try to send them an email. Maybe they will answer you back. It's the best you can do.
yeah, at least so you're on their radar. And then Richard is asking, okay, I'm going to throw this one to you too,
Yeah.
Victor, because I've never had a car in Lisbon, but he's asking about buying a used
Mhm.
EV soon after he arrives. Any advice?
Um, Advice. There are some very well-known websites for looking for used cars in general. I just forgot the name, the one, but I can send you later also, Richard. There's not so much bureaucracy in buying a car here. Taxes are a bit high, so you pay maybe buying a car here is a bit more expensive than buying one in Spain due to taxes. But the process itself is quite straightforward. I would just look into those well-known websites just to compare prices. But I don't have an EV. Mine is more traditional fuel vehicle. Also, there are some incentives here for electric cars. So keep that in mind, because when you pay taxes, you can deduct from Texas if you have electric vehicle. But just to keep in mind.
There are quite a lot of charging stations around the country, especially in Lisbon and Porto too. So that won't be a problem. But I will say, maybe you were thinking of the website OLX, Victor. That is a
OLX
really,
is a good one.
yeah.
OLX is more like a general website, not only for cars.
There's a
But
car
what is
section. There's also,
true?
I was checking while you were speaking. There's like auto.moto.pt
There is
and yeah.
the one that I've mentioned is stand virtual, so
Okay.
it's only for vehicles. I'm gonna put it on the comment section, but it's good because they do kind of due diligence to make sure that people that they publish anything there, any car they want to sell, so they kind of vet those just to make sure it's not a scam or that the car is not in the conditions they say it is. So it's a more reliable website to find vehicles.
That's good. I did have a friend last night tell me a story about how he bought a car. He wanted to look cool and he bought, I think it was like a Jeep with like these high shocks. And it was like he was way up high in this car. And he actually got pulled
Yeah.
over by the Portuguese police because it was illegal. And he didn't know. So he just bought this car
Yeah.
and now it's parked and he's trying to get it out of this, again, Portuguese bureaucracy. But the former owner had gotten this done illegally and he didn't know it. So look out for
And
this kind of stuff.
there's a
Yeah.
very good point, Becky, because we do have some clients that they decide to bring those car they have in America over to Portugal, but there's so many restrictions here in Europe in general that it's good to make sure that those cars are allowed to be used here in Europe. Usually you won't find. I just went to a event in Texas, and I was able to see how big your American cars are, but it's not used to. You're not used to see those here in Portugal.
Yeah. A lot of my friends just rent car. It depends where you're going to live, but a lot of my friends who are living in the cities are just renting cars on the weekends or for long weekend trips they want to take. So either way, it's possible. But if you're living in the Algarve, or especially, I would say you need a car. So
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Question. Okay, I really appreciate Michael's question about health insurance because we haven't spoken at all about it yet, and it's actually another huge positive for Portugal. If you have private health insurance, there is a public system, and it is mostly free, but it does take a while to go into the waiting room, and it can take a while to get certain surgeries or things done unless it's an emergency. People here will tell you that the doctors in the public system are better trained. And that, I guess, is generally true because I've heard it many times. But I have only used the private healthcare here. And it was because I did not want to wait as long to get like things like a dermatology appointment or, checks that I would get annually. That has been a lot faster with private. When I moved here, there were 3 different tiers I could choose from, and I had Medish. There's 2 big companies here that are Portuguese healthcare companies. One of them is Medish, and another one is Multicare. And I chose Medish because I was put in touch with a broker, and Medish started at €80 a month, and this was for the top tier of 3. And then I'm now paying after 5 years, I now pay 120 a month, and I haven't changed anything. Just I've gotten a bit older. Yes, that is true. So yeah, that's about what I'm paying, and that is for the top coverage of this plan. Multicare, I think, is similar. There's some add-ons you can do, but keep in mind that it takes 2 months to start being covered after you apply. So I would apply as soon as you get here for private healthcare, wait those 2 months, and then you can start going in. And then there's certain things like, if you're pregnant, so it's a longer period. Different conditions take different times to start being covered when you first sign up. So please look into that as you go. But in my opinion, there's no reason why you should not get private health care, because it's a better option. It moves a bit faster, and you will always have that public option if you need it. But if you can afford it, why not do both? So
Agree.
yeah, and I've had surgery here, and my surgery was 500 euros. That was the max I was gonna pay, no matter what happened. They said, and I just paid 500 euros the day I checked in, and I stayed overnight, and then I was released the next day. But it went really well, and I was very happy with everything. I'm very fortunate. I live a 10-minute walk from a large private hospital, so I even tried to convince them that I could walk home by myself, and they said no. You need a legal you need somebody to walk you home by law. I was like, okay, but yeah, that's if you can get close to a public hospital or a private hospital, that'd be good. But there's a lot of great healthcare centers here that specialize in different things. So my favorites are CUF, which is CUF, the CUF network, and then a lot of people in Lisbon like Hospital da Luz, which means like of the light. So Lisboa is one of the most popular private hospitals for expats here. And I go there sometimes. I can go to different private hospitals. They all take Medish and Multicare. So that's been nice. That's been very easy. So I hope that answers your question. Let's see, we're going through. Are government pensions also taxed 10%, Victor? Do you know, on the NHR 2.0?
Usually that's the case with the NHR. Actually, the thing is, with this new NHR, it's not related to passive income anymore. So pensions, social security payments, it's more on active income, because this new NHR, you need to fit into one of those conditions to be eligible, and they are all related to your professional situation. But I would highly suggest talking to a tax planner or a tax lawyer to match what type of income can be under the new NHR bracket. So because there's so many specifics, sometimes the one thing in America is not the same here in Portugal. So there's some confusion on this topic. But you can reach out to me, because I have one tax guy who is just amazing and knows everything about the American side as well. And I can put you in touch with him.
I love that. That was music to somebody's ears, I'm sure. Okay, there is a question from Francis about Francis Miller about taxes, and I had somebody. Oh, bless her heart. She was living here. She's been living here for 4 years, and she's an American, and she didn't understand the rules about. She's a resident, about taxes and how it works. I understand it is confusing. She was confused because she's not earning any income right now. She's living with her boyfriend and all that. And how it works is, if you stay in Portugal for more than 183 days in the year, you are a tax resident of Portugal. And whatever you earn, Portugal has the right to tax it. So she hadn't earned any money, so she didn't have any taxable income, but she was a tax resident of Portugal. So the question about, do you have to pay taxes if you're a long stay resident of Portugal, or do only citizens pay? You have to pay if you are a resident of Portugal for more than 183 days that year. So that's how it works, which is about 6 months. But so for me, yeah, I'm a resident of Portugal. But I don't want to go too into the weeds with this. But once you stay as a tax resident of Portugal for a full calendar year, you are no longer, you can now be considered a tax resident of Portugal, and you don't have to apply or like abide by the rules of like the 330 days out of America to remain like a non-US tax resident. You still have to pay taxes, but there's being a resident or there's being a non-resident. So once you have been a tax resident of another country for a full calendar year, you can go back to the US more often and not be considered a tax resident. So that's good. Like you want to be, I think you want to get that full calendar year of being a tax resident somewhere else to have a little more freedom of like visiting your family in the US and not being taxed as a resident. So there's some very good things about becoming a tax resident of another country outside of the US. So, but yes, it's always complicated. I hope I didn't lose anybody there. The Michael is asking, yeah. Okay, pension tax 10%, but not SSN. SSN, I don't know what you mean. Social Security? I'm not sure, Michael. If you could clarify, I will check that again. I'll come back to that. George, it used to be 0%, then 10%. Now this has been abolished. Yeah, those who benefit from this. Yes. If you had NHR, the original NHR, it is still good for those 10 years. Then there's this NHR 2.0. I need to make this really clear. You have to apply for the NHR, in this case 2.0, once you get here. It's not automatic. And a lot of people didn't know that when they first moved to Portugal. Like you can lose the first year of that 10-year NHR benefit because people weren't signing up. So your accountant can help you like get it into the system of the website. That was really strange to me at the beginning that it just wasn't automatic, but yeah, you had to apply for it. And it's the same now with NHR 2.0. So please talk to Victor about that because 2.0, the NHR system is a lot more limited as to who applies and can get it. So it's really like professors, doctors, like really specialist type of professions now, unfortunately. Okay, there's an age limit. Okay, I don't know if this was for NHR, the age limit requirement. Oh yeah, what is the system to find a rental?
No, not really.
Oh, okay. Sorry, you're talking about the age requirement.
No. Well, yeah, just comment on that. There's no age requirement for almost anything here in Portugal. I guess the only thing that your age can impact the process is for your health insurance, the private health insurance. There are some limitations in some companies, some insurance providers, but other than that, there's no limitations.
That's really good. I see somebody was answering about finding rentals. Idealista.pt, like the word ideal and then ISTA.pt. That was everybody's favorite website for finding rentals.
Yeah.
Check that first. You'll find a lot there. And then, okay, securing a mortgage. This was like a lot of different banks here. You go into the different banks like BPI or Caixa Geral de Depósitos or CGD. That's where I got my mortgage. They're the oldest bank in Portugal. And at the time, they were giving mortgages to people that some other banks were not. So you might want to start there first. Okay. Oh, the fund options. Yeah, I can't believe, wow, it's already almost 6. You guys ask a lot of great questions. Yeah, well, you can't buy a property anymore, unfortunately, in Lisbon or Porto for I don't think at all. Can you buy a property in the countryside?
No, yeah, nowadays not anymore for the golden visa.
Okay.
Nowadays, just for donation or opening a specific type of business, or the more popular route that is investing in a Portuguese fund. John, it is not the topic of this webinar, and also we are very close to the end, but you can send me a message. You can send me a message and we can talk about the fund options.
Yeah, generally overall, like I know a lot of people probably have planned to get off. Oh, somebody just had their IMA appointment. Congratulations. But generally, just remember that moving to Portugal is going to take a lot of patience. There is going to be a lot of bureaucracy, especially in the first year, but even going a little bit into that second year when you start paying more. Like I remember I didn't have to pay Social Security the first year, and I was like, yay! And then I started paying in the second year. So be ready for that, depending on your employment situation. But it is really lovely to live in Portugal. I love the weather so much. I love that I can just walk around. I don't need a car to live in Lisbon. There's so much to do. The food is so much healthier. We didn't talk about like the lack of all of those like preservatives in the food that you're going to find in American supermarkets, and all this like this food that some of it doesn't even seem like real food anymore. It's really simple. It's come back to the basics here in Portugal, and I think that's overall what you'll find is you come back a bit to the basics, but like also the essence of what's really important in life. So I don't know if there's any things you want to say, any final points you want to make, Victor, about your experience in Portugal, but that's what I've found.
I guess I share with you, Becky, kind of a similar experience. I do think that Brazil has more similarities with America than with Portugal in regards to the pace of life. People are a bit more on the that mindset of buying more things in general, while here in Portugal I feel myself that I live in a scenario where I was able to relax, just to calm down, to enjoy those simple things. I love living here. I share with you this feeling.
Yeah, when I see some things on the news, they really concern me, and I feel like Portugal is this safe haven, and there's just a network of people that you build up over the years that you're here, and you can go to the beach and you can just have your coffee and sit in the cafe, and there's just a calmness. Even I'm very surprised on public buses how calm everybody is and how helpful they are to each other. And they just like this anger. I don't see a lot of people exploding and getting angry around me, on when we're all trapped. I feel just people help each other out, and that really, yeah, it's just great. So, in this turbulent world that we feel like we live in, sometimes yeah. But I think the bureaucracy is
Yeah,
the most turbulent part, to be honest. Once you can get used to that,
yeah,
it's
I agree.
better. Yeah.
Yeah.
I hope that we answered the majority of your
Okay, thank you,
questions.
Becky.
Thank you, Victor, and everybody. It
You
was so
can.
lovely.
Thank you. Thank you, Becky. So much nice having you here. Thank you, everybody. And of course, I'd have to say that if you are looking for some reliable information about Portugal, always go to portugal.com as well. That's where I go to find
Thank
some
you.
good, reliable information. And again,
Thank you.
thank you, Becky.
And
Thank you, everybody.
if you need to do the more in-depth details of applying for visas and getting contacts for taxes and things like that, Victor is your guy. So come to Victor and Viv Europe.
Thank you. Appreciate
Thank you,
it, Becky.
everybody.
Bye.
Bye bye. Have a nice day.
Nice day.